Burkina Faso has endured yet another coup attempt, but this time, it's crucial to address the elephant in the room. Both the citizens and the leaders are now openly questioning who is planning these coups. So, who is behind them?
Burkina Faso makes a huge accusation against France, and they claim that they have evidence to prove it. According to reports, Burkina Faso's military leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, he has evidence of destabilization orchestrated against his country by France.
It's not surprising. We all have a pretty good idea. President Traoré himself has pointed fingers multiple times, accusing the West of trying to destabilize the country. The recent coup attempt appears to be tied to these efforts. But is the West really behind this? If it is, then the question remains, why? Let's find out. They say lightning doesn't strike the same place twice, but for Burkina Faso's president Ibrahim Traoré, coup attempts seem to defy that rule. 5 times in just 2 years, his leadership has faced a barrage of efforts to destabilize it. While every time the attempt fails, it is now important to ask, who's planning these relentless plots to undermine a nation fighting fiercely for its sovereignty? To fully grasp why Burkina Faso has become the target of such sustained aggression, we must first ask, what is it about President Ibrahim Traoré that poses such a threat to Western interests? You must be thinking, why Western interests are being discussed? It's because Traoré has himself said many times that the West, especially France, is planning against Burkina Faso.
According to the Burkina Faso military government, these coups are Western-backed, allegedly. That is what they are claiming, and if you remember, Ibrahim Traoré also accused France of, working with their neighboring countries to destabilize Burkina Faso.
It is known by all that they don't like Traoré. So, it's important to ask why they don't like him. This will provide us with an understanding of who can be behind this coup attempt. So, why is President Ibrahim Traoré the target of Western powers? President Ibrahim Traoré is not just any leader. He represents a new wave of African leadership, bold, unyielding, and unapologetically committed to the sovereignty of his people. Traoré's rise to power was a statement, a declaration that Burkina Faso would no longer be a pawn in the West's geopolitical chess game. Unlike his predecessors, who may have been content to accept foreign aid with strings attached, Traoré has firmly rejected external interference and made it clear that Burkina Faso's resources will be used for its people, not for lining the pockets of foreign investors. Traoré's domestic policies have been a direct affront to Western interests. He has prioritized the redistribution of wealth, the strengthening of local economies, and the reduction of foreign dependency. These initiatives, while popular among the Burkinabe people, are seen as a threat by Western powers, who have grown accustomed to African countries being reliant on their aid and support. The narrative of a poor, dependent Africa is one that the West has long exploited, both for economic gain and geopolitical influence.
But for the most part, we give repressive regimes money and power and guns to keep that system going. This is what it's fundamentally about. All the hypocrisy about transparency and democracy and bullshit like that, it's all bullshit,
The growing wave of Pan-Africanism, which Traoré is a key proponent of, is another reason he has become a target. Pan-Africanism challenges the very foundation of Western dominance in Africa by promoting unity and self-reliance among African nations. This movement is a direct threat to the neo-colonial structures that the West has meticulously built over the decades. Traoré's vision of an independent, self-sustaining Burkina Faso is an inspiration to other African nations, signaling a shift away from Western dependency. But it's not just his policies that have rattled the West. Traoré's leadership style, transparent, inclusive, and people-focused, has endeared him to his citizens and earned him a level of grassroots support rarely seen in African politics. This popularity makes him particularly dangerous to Western powers. They fear that his example could set a precedent, encouraging other African leaders to reject Western meddling and focus on the welfare of their people. Traoré's defiance is seen not just as a personal affront, but as a direct challenge to the West's centuries-old playbook of control and manipulation. They are well aware that if one nation successfully breaks free from its grasp, others will follow. Traoré's Burkina Faso is a test case, a potential domino in a chain that could lead to a new independent Africa. With a clearer understanding of why Traoré has become a target, we now turn our attention to the strategies being deployed against him. How are these coup attempts being orchestrated, and what does this tell us about the broader Western agenda in Africa? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. The coup attempts against President Traoré are far from spontaneous. They bear all the result of carefully planned operations aimed at destabilizing a government that has refused to play by the rules set by Western powers. According to multiple intelligence reports and insider accounts, these attempts are the result of a coordinated campaign involving covert funding, strategic misinformation, and the exploitation of internal divisions within Burkina Faso's military and political landscape. France, with its long history of interference in African affairs, has been frequently named as a key player in these destabilization efforts. There are credible reports that French bases in neighboring Benin have been used as staging grounds for operations targeting Burkina Faso. These bases, ostensibly set up for anti-insurgency's efforts, provide a convenient cover for more nefarious activities aimed at undermining Traoré's government. The tactics employed are diverse but connected by a common thread. They all aim to sow chaos and confusion, making governance difficult and creating an environment ripe for a coup. These tactics include funding dissident groups within the military, orchestrating economic disruptions through sanctions and embargoes, and conducting disinformation campaigns designed to turn public opinion against Traoré. These efforts are not isolated, but part of a broader strategy to ensure that Burkina Faso, like many other African nations, remains within the sphere of Western influence. What's particularly striking is the extent to which the West has been willing to go to destabilize Burkina Faso. Recent documents leaked to international media suggest that there have been attempts to infiltrate Traoré's inner circle with informants and saboteurs. These tactics are straight out of the Cold War playbook, a stark reminder that for all its rhetoric about democracy and freedom, the West is still willing to engage in underhanded tactics to achieve its goals.
Confessions of an Economic Hitman. You remember this? Have any of you heard of this one? Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It's a book written by John Perkins, who used to work for a very nebulous, opaque bank. No one had ever heard of this bank. It was formed in the 1950s by the IMF, the CIA, and the American State Department. And it had only one job: to lend money to developing countries that were raw material producers in order to indebt them. Once you are in my debt, I control you. Okay? And this bank had 4,000 employees, but no one ever heard of this bank, you see? But it would go to country after country, offering loans. And if the president did not accept the loan, they were killed. And he gives two examples of presidents who were killed when they did not accept the loan. You see, the lending is also very important to trap the country.
But perhaps the most telling evidence of Western interference is the sheer persistence of these coup attempts. Despite failing multiple times, the efforts to unseat Traoré have not ceased. This suggests a level of desperation, a fear that if Burkina Faso succeeds in breaking free from Western control, it could inspire a wave of resistance across the continent. The West is well aware that its influence in Africa is waning, and it is determined to stop this trend at all costs. As we examine the extent of Western interference, it becomes clear that these efforts are not just about Burkina Faso. They are part of a broader strategy to maintain Western dominance over Africa. But how has Traoré managed to withstand these relentless attacks? What's his secret to staying in power in the face of such adversity? In an era where many leaders are easily toppled by external forces, President Ibrahim Traoré's resilience is nothing short of remarkable. His ability to stay in power amidst constant threats is not a result of sheer luck or brute force, but rather a carefully crafted strategy rooted in a deep understanding of his people and his country's needs. Firstly, Traoré has cultivated a strong, loyal base of support among the Burkina people. His policies focused on self-reliance and national sovereignty resonate deeply with a population that has grown weary of foreign interference and exploitation. By investing in local industries, promoting agricultural self-sufficiency, and emphasizing education and healthcare, Traoré has demonstrated a commitment to improving the everyday lives of his citizens. This has garnered him widespread support, making it much harder for external forces to destabilize his government.
In Burkina Faso, thousands of protesters gathered on Saturday in several large cities to support Captain Ibrahim Traoré and denounce destabilization desires of the country. Thursday, during a televised interview, Captain Traoré denounced the actions of a coalition against Burkina Faso.
Moreover, Traoré has been adept at building alliances both domestically and internationally. On the home front, he has worked to unite various factions within the military and political landscape, ensuring that loyalty to the nation takes precedence over individual ambitions or foreign influence. This unity has been crucial in withstanding the coup attempts, as it has denied external actors the opportunity to exploit internal divisions. Internationally, Traoré has sought to build alliances with other African nations committed to the ideals of Pan-Africanism and sovereignty. He has reached out to leaders in Mali, Guinea, and beyond, forging partnerships that provide both moral and material support. These alliances have proven invaluable in countering Western narratives and exposing the true nature of the destabilization efforts. But perhaps the most critical factor in Traoré's resilience is his transparency and direct communication with his people. Unlike many leaders who govern from ivory towers, Traoré has made a concerted effort to stay connected with the grassroots. He regularly addresses the nation, keeping the public informed about the challenges facing the country and the measures being taken to address them. This transparency has built trust and made it much harder for external forces to sway public opinion against him. While Traoré's leadership has proven effective in fending off external threats, the battle is far from over. The West is not likely to give up its efforts to destabilize Burkina Faso anytime soon. This raises a crucial question. What do the repeated coup attempts against Burkina Faso signify for the rest of Africa? The relentless attempts to unseat President Traoré are not just about Burkina Faso. They are emblematic of a larger battle for the future of Africa. A battle between those who seek to maintain the old order of Western dominance and those who strive for a new era of African sovereignty and self-determination. For too long, Africa has been seen as a continent to be exploited, its resources plundered, and its people manipulated. The West has used every tool at its disposal, from economic pressure and military intervention to political manipulation and cultural imperialism, to maintain its grip on Africa. But the times are changing. A new generation of African leaders and citizens is rising, demanding not just change, but transformation. The coup attempts in Burkina Faso are a stark reminder of the lengths to which the West is willing to go to maintain its influence. But they also serve as a wake-up call for other African nations. The message is clear. If Burkina Faso can stand up to the West, so can they. This realization is sparking a wave of solidarity across the continent, as nations begin to support each other in their quest for true independence. The implications of this shift are profound. A united Africa, free from Western interference, has the potential to become a major global player. With its vast natural resources, youthful population, and rich cultural heritage, Africa is uniquely positioned to redefine the global order. But for this to happen, African nations must first break free from the shackles of neo-colonialism. The struggle in Burkina Faso is a microcosm of a larger continental struggle. It's about more than just one country's fight for sovereignty. It's about the fight for the soul of Africa. And as more and more African nations rally behind the call for unity and independence, the West finds itself increasingly isolated. With the battle lines drawn, the next logical question is, what does this mean for the future of global politics? How will the clash between African independence and Western interference shape global geopolitics? As Africa begins to assert its independence and reject the remnants of colonial influence, the global geopolitical landscape is undergoing a seismic shift. The old power dynamics, which have long been dominated by Europe and the United States, are being challenged by a new wave of African assertiveness. This is not just a regional phenomenon. It's a global realignment that has the potential to reshape international relations in the coming decades. The West, accustomed to having a free hand in Africa, is finding itself increasingly on the defensive. Its old tactics, economic coercion, military intervention, and political manipulation, are losing effectiveness in a continent that is waking up to its potential. African nations are no longer willing to be passive recipients of foreign aid and diktats. They are demanding a seat at the table and a say in their destinies. This new assertiveness is being fueled by a generation of young Africans who are more educated, more connected, and more aware of their rights than ever before. They are rejecting the narratives that have been imposed upon them for decades and are instead embracing a vision of Africa that is strong, united, and independent. This shift in mindset is not just a threat to Western interests, it's a challenge to the very foundation of the global order. The West's fear of a united, self-reliant Africa is not unfounded. An Africa that is truly independent, free from external manipulation, and able to leverage its vast resources for its development, poses a significant challenge to the current global balance of power. It would mean the end of cheap resources, the end of unchallenged geopolitical influence, and the beginning of a new era where Africa is a major player on the world stage. But the West is not without options. It is likely to continue its efforts to destabilize and divide Africa, using every tool at its disposal to maintain its influence. This includes supporting opposition groups, funding disinformation campaigns, and using economic pressure to force compliance. However, the more it resorts to these tactics, the more it exposes its hypocrisy, and the more it fuels the growing resentment among African nations. The geopolitical chessboard is shifting, and the players are changing. Africa is no longer a pawn but is increasingly becoming a kingmaker. This newfound assertiveness has not only rattled the old powers, but also drawn the attention of new global players. Countries like China, Russia, and India are watching closely, and in many cases, aligning themselves with African interests against the old Western hegemonies. These new alliances could redefine the power dynamics of the 21st century, presenting opportunities and challenges for both Africa and the world. Africa's vast natural resources, combined with the strategic interests of these new global players, could shift the balance of power in unprecedented ways. The traditional Western powers might find themselves increasingly isolated as new blocs form around a more assertive Africa. Yet for Africa, the path ahead is not without challenges. As it navigates these new alliances, it must ensure that it does not replace one form of dependency with another. The key to Africa's future lies in its ability to leverage these relationships to its advantage, ensuring that the interests of its people are at the forefront of any new agreements or partnerships. The repeated coup attempts against President Traoré are not just a local issue. They are a flashpoint in a larger global struggle. They represent the last desperate gasp of a Western world that is losing its grip on a continent that is determined to chart its course. As Africa rises, the old tactics of division and manipulation are being laid bare for what they are: desperate attempts to cling to a past that is rapidly fading. Africa is rising, and there's no stopping it now. The battle for Burkina Faso's future is more than a local skirmish. It's a front line in the global fight for African independence. The repeated coup attempts against Traoré are emblematic of a broader, more insidious campaign to keep Africa under Western control. But as Africa rises, the old tactics are losing their grip. The message is clear. Africa will no longer be a playground for Western powers. The continent is ready to take its destiny into its own hands, and there's no turning back. Do you think the latest failed coup attempt shows West has become paranoid and is taking desperate actions? Can they turn down a leader like Traoré? Let us know in the comment section why you think global communities are silent watching these attacks. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, And until the next video, stay tuned.